Welcome to Cybersecurity Awareness TV, episode number 466, recorded September 27th, 2024. Join me, Mac Jackson Jr., as your professor navigating you through the digital landscape. Gear up for a thrilling ride through the cybersecurity tips, news, and gain expert knowledge regarding cybersecurity awareness to protect yourself and your family from the fastest growing crimes of the 21st century, folks. Remember to share, like, and subscribe and stay ahead of the game when it comes to cyber threats. To find out more, you go to my website at macjacksonjr.com. That's macjacksonjr.com for more information. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the warning, folks, of breach fatigue. That's right, folks, breach fatigue, data breach fatigue. So many people in the public or society have heard so many cybersecurity stories about data breaches that they've completely kind of like zonked out, right? Ignore them, that is. And we're going to talk about that's a vulnerability. Hackers love to hear that. So we're going to talk about that in this episode, folks. What is breach fatigue? Folks, we're going to go over that, what breach fatigue is. We're going to delve into this alarming issues that can impact every American, and it really has. Breach fatigue is a term that refers to the growing desensitization, right, of amongst the public that has to do towards the frequent reoccurrence of data breaches and cyber attacks. As a cybersecurity professional, we see this happening a lot, where people are becoming more reactive than proactive. As these cyber incidents become more common, essentially in high-profile data breaches that you see on the news relating to governmental entities and many corporate levels, people are becoming less reactive or concerned. And that is a huge issue. To recap some of these extreme data breaches and what's going on in our society, let's review a couple of them that happened within the last couple of months. Here's a recap of a recent data breach coming to us from NBC News.
Tonight, fears a massive data breach may have impacted billions of people across the globe, according to a new class action lawsuit, which means Social Security numbers and other sensitive information could now be up for sale on the dark web. So how did this happen? A company called Jericho Pictures, which operates as National Public Data, is a Florida-based background check company. NPD takes data from public record databases, national and state databases, and court records. It then sells that data to a range of organizations like background check websites, investigators, app developers, and data resellers. According to the lawsuit, in April of this year, a hacking group called USDOD breached NPD systems and stole private information. The suit goes on to say in a post on the dark web on April 8th, USDOD claimed they stole 2.9 billion records of personal data and were trying to sell them for $3.5 million. That personal data includes names, address histories, relatives, and Social Security numbers. In a statement on their website, NPD acknowledges the breach and says, "We cooperated with law enforcement and governmental investigators and have implemented additional security measures. We reached out to NPD, but did not hear back." Since the information was posted for sale in April, other hackers have released different copies of the data, including a hacker known as Finis, who posted the most complete version for free in August, according to cybersecurity news site Bleeping Computer. Some good news, the database does not contain information from individuals who use opt-out services, according to the lawsuit.
This year has just been the year of the hackers.
But people on social media still panicking.
Biggest data breach possibly in human history,
as many fear their private data is up for sale.
All right, for more on this concerning data breach and what it means for you, I want to bring in cybersecurity expert David Kennedy. David, thank you so much for joining us on this. This is huge. 2.9 billion records were in fact breached. Help us put this into context. And does that actually mean, if we're talking about Social Security numbers, for instance, 2.9 billion Social Security numbers were in fact leaked?
We don't know fully if it's 2.9 billion individual records or if these are multiple reports. This is a background checking company that basically looks at, making sure you don't have a record if you go to a job employment, but they have access to all of these national databases that can pull information on any U.S. citizen. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of these organizations, background check facilities, companies around the country. And with the 2.9 billion, that number may dwindle a little bit, but it's not going to be substantially lower than that. We can pretty much assume that this is the largest data breach we've ever seen around Social Security numbers in the history. I mean, I was impacted by OPM, which was the big data breach around classified, top secret folks that are contractors or folks that were in the military. I was part of that as well. This pales in comparison to that. This is a much larger data breach.
So you have people at home right now saying, is it me? Am I one of them? How do you find out if, in fact, you are one of them? And if you find out you are, what do you do?
There's a class action lawsuit out right now for this particular area, and there's information being basically set up so you can actually go and check. It's not fully up and operational yet for checking. But I mean, I would assume, 2.9 billion people, there's a good chance that you're going to be on there. I mean, I would say statistically, it's going to be in the upward of 90 percentile of U.S. citizens that are probably impacted by this. So you should assume that your Social Security number is now compromised and breached, unfortunately.
Wow, that is incredible. We reported that some people were actually safe because they took extra steps like opting out services. What are other things that people can do to protect themselves from future breaches?
Two things that are really important to note is that, Social Security numbers in general are such a legacy piece of data. We need to move to more of a digital format, and the government really needs to be pushing for more digital ways of identifying individuals that are unique to an individual. Social Security numbers were never designed to be a security mechanism. I mean, they were designed in like the 50s and 40s. And I think a lot has changed since then around technology. So we need to do a better job around Social Security numbers and how we actually protect people's personal information. What you can do, though, my number one recommendation, and this is regardless of a data breach or not, is go to the three major credit bureaus, so Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and lock your credits in those. And what happens is you just go to their website, you call them up, and they'll lock your credit. And what that means is that when you go to take out a loan or you're looking at a new credit card or something like that, you have to call and you have to answer a few questions specific about yourself that you would only know. And it's very difficult for hackers to get around that. So it locks your credit in place. And that's one of the most protective features you can actually do.
That is a great tip and something I'm likely going to do after this
Takes
broadcast.
10 minutes. 10 minutes.
As you'll see, folks, cyber incidences like the ones you just previously seen are happening on literally a weekly basis, if not daily. And the concern should be there for the public. Breach fatigue has concerns about the massive vulnerability, that is, in government and corporate practices, right? This type of vulnerability puts our guard down while the hackers take advantage of that, and they can exploit our businesses and individuals with these types of cyber attacks. This phenomenon can be broken down into several key assets. I'd like to go over those with you. Some of the key contributors to breach fatigue includes one we call frequency of breaches, right? High profile breaches are consistently shown in the news, right? Which leads to a feeling that data breaches are inevitable and they will happen all the time as a simple part of our everyday lives now. This constraint exposes results to lower the urgency to address cybersecurity concerns. Secondly, the normalization of these data breaches, right? This is what hackers want. As these data breaches and attacks become more normalized, in the public's concerns, individuals feel that they're powerless in preventing them. This will lead to a passive acceptance of the risk rather than a proactive measures to safeguard their personal data. Overload of notifications. Many individuals receive multiple data breach notifications every day, basically. And over time, this often refers to ignoring these type of breaches. Let me give you an example of that. This is like back in the day remember when the first car alarms came out, right? Remember the first time you heard a car alarm? This was back in the early 80s. Everybody, when they heard it going off in the parking lot, everybody would take a look at it going, wow, what happened? Somebody's car is being attacked or something, being broken into. Nowadays, you hear a car alarm, it's an annoyance, right? We basically says, oh, here's somebody's car alarm. Somebody turn that off, right? It becomes an annoyance. We become sanitized to it and we're used to it. That is a vulnerability. Perception of lack of impact. Sometimes people do not feel that the data breaches significantly or immediately can affect their daily lives, especially if their sensitive data has been directly exploited. As a result, they may become more prioritize things and take unnecessary steps to enhance their cybersecurity habits. Now, this is an example of this. This week in Florida, there was a major hurricane, and the news media and citizens of Florida sent out warnings to let people know to evacuate. People that have lived there in Florida for decades, they see these hurricanes as, yes, they're dangerous, but we're not going to move. We're not going to leave. Not going to hit us. It's going to pass us. People think the same thing when it comes to cyber. They don't realize that it is a hurricane, it is a tsunami, it is a tornado, but it's a silent one, and it's an underground one that you can't see that can affect your family and your business. Mistrust in organizations. This is a big one. There is also a growing mistrust towards companies or organizations that experience data breaches, essentially when these breaches are perceived to be mishandled. This mistrust can feed into breach fatigue, where individuals believe that their best efforts won't protect them from organizations falling into the safeguards of their data appropriately. Now, a good example of this type of mistrust and data breaches is companies are concerned of this. And when we consult in my practice about data breaches with corporations, there are three major concerns, and they are loss of data, loss of business, and legal entanglements, and the reputation, that is too. Let's put that out there too, business reputation. So businesses are concerned about these things. But again, it happens so many times, people are like going to deal with it no matter what. The lack of education. Many people need to be better informed about the data breach and how it occurs, the data breach entails, how to mitigate the risk. Without clearly understanding the potential concerns, they have a tendency to play down the severity of this type of data breach. To emphasize this, I'm going to go over to you to watch another video I have for you about a massive data breach, and we'll talk about this on the other side. Check this out from ABC News.
This morning, consumer advocates are sounding the alarm about a massive data breach that could impact billions of people, according to a federal class action lawsuit.
The information that was stolen includes Social Security numbers, potentially leaving millions of Americans vulnerable to cyber criminals. ABC Action News reporter Larissa Scott explains what we know so far, I should say, and what cybersecurity experts say people should do next.
About 2.9 billion people may have gotten their personal information stolen, according to lawsuit documents. The lawsuit claims that National Public Data, which is a company that performs background checks, was hacked. Documents allege a hacking group gained access to National Public Data's network and stole unencrypted personal information and released most of that data on the dark web. Steve Grobman, Chief Technology Officer at McAfee, tells us this may be one of the worst data breaches ever.
We know that National Public Data had a large breach earlier this year, and what really makes this one stand out is the quantity of the data. So it was close to 3 billion records, and that's an astounding number.
National Public Data has confirmed the hack, saying it was a, quote, third-party bad actor that leaked data in April and over the summer. The information that was stolen includes Social Security numbers, home addresses, phone numbers, and dates of birth.
What makes this breach a little bit different is some of the data is also about relationships. So who are your family members? Who are people that you've worked with? And this makes consumers susceptible to all sorts of other types of attacks.
While it's unclear exactly how many Americans were impacted, cybersecurity experts believe it's possible millions of Social Security numbers could have been leaked. Grobman urges people to start monitoring their credit, financial history, and transactions now.
Just having that constant vigilance of always having those good digital street smarts, taking advantage of the best technology that's available, including things like dark web monitoring.
Besides using a service to monitor your personal information online, experts stress the importance of tightening up your online security. Use multi-factor authentication, change your passwords as an extra precaution, and use different passwords for different websites.
When a password is part of a data breach, what the cyber criminals will do is they'll try that email password combination on all sorts of other sites.
And remember, although this information was recently leaked, cybercriminals may not use it for a while. So experts recommend you stay vigilant in the coming months. Reporting in Hillsborough County, Larissa Scott, ABC Action News.
As you can see, folks, from that news clip from fact-checked ABC News, you'll see that the impact of data fatigue is definitely strong, and it's something that we all should be concerned with. Reduce response to security recommendations. So what we need to do to impact data fatigue and breach fatigue. Again, reduce response to security recommendations. The public may ignore essential security practices, such as updating passwords regularly, two-factor authentications, a security process in which you use two different ways to authenticate a feature or function before you proceed on your website or on your smart device, or even responding to notifications of personal data exposure. So this is true. So because of this fatigue, people are frustrated. I hear it all the time with my clients and potential prospects that we consult with. They hear it all the time. They have to change their passwords every 60 to 90 days when they are at work. It's fatigue. Having to have a two-factor authentication before they can get anything done in their workplace. It's fatigue. Having to have extra security layers of protection before they can process any of the information. It's another process of fatigue. All these things are ways that businesses are very, very frustrated in their day-to-day activities. And hackers know this, and they will continue to create these types of processes to delay productivity. In our next section here, we talk about delayed actions. Individuals may delay or disregard necessary steps like freezing their credit reports, which we've talked a lot about on this show, or enrolling in identity theft protection services after they've been notified of a breach. So in other words, after you're notified of a breach, there's a breach there, people are still delaying and freezing their credit. I've talked to several people even yesterday that I spoke to a month ago, and they still have not put a credit freeze on their credit report. They're going to wait until they get around to it. But I tell you, if it was a traffic ticket they had to go to or go to period court, they would make sure they take care of that, or cash in one of their checks from the government. They'd take care of that right away, wouldn't they? Absolutely. So we must maintain these delays and act upon them. Challenges for businesses. Companies may need help getting customers or users to take security recommendations seriously, such as changing their passwords after a breach or adopting more serious behavior. Again, folks, it is a culture that we call the industry a cybersecurity culture that must be communicated, not just within businesses, but in your homes as well, with your family. Counteracting. So how do we counteract this? Okay, let's talk about some ways we could fix this. Counteracting breach fatigue, effective communication. Organizations can overcome data breach fatigue by clearly communicating the potential risk and the concrete actions individuals can take to protect themselves. Involves avoid alarmist language, right? And focus on actionable steps to help engage the public. Meaning, like we talked about in the show before, watch out for misinformation, folks, and disinformation. That is another blend to weaponize breach fatigue. Building trust. Be transparent about the cause of data breach and how the organization plans to prevent future incidences like this that happen to help protect your data, to build trust with their community and with their consumers. When customers are seeking proactive effects and accountability, they may be more inclined to engage in security recommendations. In other words, talk to your customers, be open-minded and transparent of what has actually happened, and guide your customers along the way, letting them know that they must freeze their credit, must freeze their social security numbers, and take proactive steps and protect themselves. And of course, the big one here, folks, is security education. Providing continuous, accessible security education and cybersecurity can help reduce breach fatigue and empower individuals to understand the importance of cybersecurity measures and the consequences of this breach. So folks, as we can see, breach fatigue is a growing challenge in today's digital world, where frequent cyber attacks and data breaches lead to the desensitization and the apathetic means among the public, so not doing anything, to be reactive instead of proactive. Organizations and cybersecurity professionals like myself and others have addressed this by educating the public and creating continuous communication and actively engaging our customers and users to be proactive and changing their culture, their behavior within their workplace. We advise our Clients, corporations do this all the time, and we're doing it more now. And that's why I wanted to bring this message to you today about becoming more proactive when it comes to cybersecurity awareness. Folks, like we say all the time, criminals are always looking for vulnerabilities, ways to exploit and steal your data. We must stay resilient. We must stay proactive, folks. Hashtag stay cyber woke. We'll be back after these messages. Hi, folks. This is Mac Jackson Jr. from Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm here to tell you today about Dr. Aki Akimi from Vegas Direct Primary Care. As healthcare costs are on the rise, Dr. Akimi takes the time to explain and recommends lifestyle changes to improve your health and your well-being. She is very attentive and knowledgeable, and she listens, folks, to what your needs are and help you get to the healthcare that you deserve. Dr. Akimi would suggest things like food is the best medicine. That's what she says. I want to give praises out to her and thank her for her support here with me as well as the Las Vegas community. Thank you, Dr. Akimi. Hello, folks. This is Mac Jackson Jr. from Vanderson Cyber Group. The problem with businesses today is that they are affected by cyber attacks from around the world, but companies are not sure of what to do. Normally, they are reactive instead of proactive. But folks, cyber attacks can affect your bottom line, and it will affect you financially, legally, and your business reputation. Here at Vanderson Cyber Group, we can help you develop a policy by training your employees on what to do if they are involved in a cyber attack and how to mitigate it and fight against it. Folks, we call it here hashtag stay cyber woke. And that's Vanderson Cyber Group here in Las Vegas and around the world. You can reach me, folks, at VandersonCyberGroup.com or my website, MacJacksonJr.com as well. Here locally, 702-868-0808. Give us a call today, folks. We must fight back. Hey folks, welcome back to Cybersecurity Awareness TV. I'm your host, Mac Jackson Jr. Find me on my website at MacJacksonJr.com. It's MacJacksonJr.com. So folks, in my last segment, I talked about breach fatigue and how it is a serious issue of ignoring potential threats in the landscape when it relates to cybersecurity and data protection. But there are ways to protect yourself. There are some of the things that we here at WWDBTV and my company, Vanderson Cyber Group, are creating to help you be more aware of these types of cyber threats. One of them is an event that I'm hosting called Hacking the Human. These are events that I am scheduling with resources and law enforcement throughout the community here of Las Vegas. And we hope to branch out throughout the country with the events Hacking the Human. And basically what it talks about is the weakest link when it comes to cyber attacks, and that is us, folks. The enemy is us, and we're looking at it. We need to improve and change our culture of cybersecurity and make it a part of our landscape and our everyday lives of what we do. Because, folks, the hackers spend their 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 time finding out ways to steal from you, as all criminals usually do, while we're trying to live in a society that is moral and just. So we must be able to understand how these bad guys think. Hacking the Human is an event that we have to discuss these types of cyber threats with law enforcement and what they are doing and things that you could do additionally to protect yourselves. We talk about the latest cyber threats that can affect your business and your family. So find out more about these events. Go to my website. That's at VandersonCyberGroup.com or at MacJacksonJr.com and sign up for the next upcoming event when it comes to these Hacking Human events we have throughout Las Vegas to protect yourself and your business from these type of cyber attacks. I also want to mention too, folks, I have 2 books out right now. That's right, 2 ebooks that I have published, and they are online and they're available at my website at MacJacksonJr.com. The first was called The Ultimate Guide to Password Security. People ask me all the time, well, Mac, how do I set up a better password? Should I use a password? How long should it be? Can I use password 1, 2, 3, 4? Or can I spell password backwards? It's easy for me to remember. Or can I use my dog's name for password? That'll do it. My dog's name and the year I graduated from high school, right? No, folks, we can't do that. What's the difference between a password and a passphrase? All of that, folks. I've said this over and over again now for about 20 years. I figured let's put it in the book. And people ask me it. I said, tell you, buy my book. You'll be able to see it. You can go through the whole aspect of it, how to set it up and protect your business. So that's the first book. And the second book, folks, is really good. Because when we think of cybersecurity, you're thinking of, oh, that's an IT issue. But you're at your house, you have your family, your kids, your grandparents, your parents who live with you, and you have computers set up. Do you have an IT department there at your home? No, not really, do you? Corporation, you do. Corporations, you have an IT department paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars to maintain their servers and data. But at your home, you do not. The companies are getting struck and hit almost every day. Imagine what the hackers are doing to individual homes, right? Hitting them as well. You need to learn how to protect yourself. So my book called Cybersecurity Basics for Non-Techies, it focuses on what the homeowners should do and what individuals should do when it comes to cybersecurity. But here's the word behind cybersecurity, folks, so we can all understand. And that is scammers and fraudsters. That's right. We've heard of scammers and fraudsters for a millennium, right? That's cybersecurity. Protect you from scammers and fraudsters. And that's what we talk about in these books and what you can do to protect yourselves from these types of attacks. So I definitely invite you to take a look at these new books that I have. Take a look at my events that we have scheduled and work with my resources from law enforcement and others here in Nevada and around the country on protecting your family and your business from these fastest growing crimes of the 21st century. Folks, that's all we have for you today. If you want to find out more about how to protect yourself, again, you know how to get a hold of me. I'm on all the social media links from LinkedIn to YouTube and Facebook. Definitely find me. Send me an email, your questions you may have on cybersecurity as well. Until next time, folks, hashtag stay cyberwoke. This is Mac Jackson. See you next week.